My name is Kevin Hutchings, and I'm an Associate Professor of English at the University of Northern British Columbia, where I also hold an appointment as Canada Research Chair in Romantic Studies. As someone who studies romanticism, I always have to make it plain to people what I mean by the term, because it's very easy to think that romanticism refers to, harlequin romances and stories of love and sexual courtship and so on. But the romantics that I'm talking about are the generation of artists and poets who lived between the late 18th century, about 1780, and roughly 1850. And those artists were really obsessed with nature. My project involves looking primarily at the poetry and literature of the period and the way that it represents the world of nature, because I'm interested in the history, in the way that Romanticism contributes to the history of modern environmentalism. In the Romantic period, it was the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, and the poets who were writing at the time were witnessing the profound changes that industrialism was causing, not only in society but also to the world of nature. The industrialization of England had some grave ramifications for ecosystems in Britain and globally, indeed. And so what I'm doing in my research then is I'm looking at the ways in which the Romantics engage with the history of things like conservation, ecological science, environmental ethics, those sorts of things. I came to academia by a very roundabout route. I was, in fact, a high school dropout. And I was a couple of credits shy of getting my high school diploma, and I didn't think that that academic studies would be very useful to my future. And so I was out of school for 11 years, during which time I worked in various kinds of jobs. I was a factory worker, I was a tree planter here in British Columbia, and I also played music as an entertainer in pubs and clubs and bars and so on. But at a certain point in my young adult life, I wanted to change things. I wanted to settle down a little bit. I wanted to find a career that was exciting, and that led me back to education. So when I was about 29 years old, I started my Bachelor of Arts degree, and about halfway through it I realized that I was really bitten by the academic bug. So I thought maybe I should do a graduate degree. Did a master's degree, really enjoyed that, got into a PhD program at McMaster University, was on the job market near the end of the PhD, not having much luck. And I was fortunate to land a postdoc financed by Shirk at the University of Western Ontario, and that gave me a nice bridge from my education to the profession. I was on the job market for a few years. It started when I was ABD, or as they say, all but dissertation, when all but my dissertation had been completed at the PhD level. I probably applied for academic jobs at 50 institutions in Canada and in the USA. Received quite a few rejection letters, managed to get maybe 10 or a dozen job interviews at places like the MLA or on-campus interviews, and finally I found an institution that wanted to hire me, and that was the University of Northern British Columbia. That was a combination of great good fortune that involved being in the right place at the right time, and also, I suppose, I can say that it also involved having a fairly decent resume at the time, a number of publications and books. I guess I had been at UNBC for maybe 5 years. One day I was sitting at my desk studiously working, and I got a phone call from the dean. I had been completely unaware that they were accepting applications for a Canada Research Chair working in the humanities or arts. All of UNBC's Canada Research Chairs, other than me, are in other disciplinary areas like medicine and community health and forestry and things like that. And so the dean called me up and asked me to submit my CV. And it wasn't too long before I had received word that, that UNBC wished to nominate me for a Canada Research Chair position in literature and environmental studies, which was very exciting for me. So I worked hard to write the application and to propose a project for myself. And was very fortunate to have received the appointment. So I'm now 3 years into my first 5-year term as a Canada Research Chair, and very much hoping next year when I write my application to renew the chair that I will be successful then as well.